Alright, so I've got another little gear review. Give you a little bit of background. I recently did go back into security work. Um, so I needed to get some good handcuffs. Normally I go with either Smith & Wesson or Peerless. Both those brands are proven effective. Smith & Wesson has been having a little bit of issues, I think, with their chains not holding up that great, um, and both Peerless and Smith & Wesson are fairly expensive. You're looking at least $50 for each pair. The company I looked into is Vipertek. Here's the packaging that it comes in, and I went with both hinged and chained. Um, Now there's benefits and drawbacks to both, and of course I went with the tactical black instead of stainless. Um, of course, hinged, you're the person you're trying to restrain is not going to have as much mobility. Um, it does make adjustments a little bit more difficult if they're not applied properly. You do, of course, want to make sure that you are going to have access to your keyholes here. And on these, the double locking mechanism is the pin, of course. Basically, you would, well, this is not the key that it comes with. It comes standard with two of your standard keys, which, of course, has the little pin on the end. You would just push that in like a plunger. That makes it so that the handcuffs can't tighten anymore on the person you're attempting to restrain. And of course, you would just turn it to the right to unlock that. The the hinge on these themselves appears to be pretty well. I mean, they're sturdy. I don't think that a suspect would be able to. I've seen videos where if enough pressure, if these get bound up enough, it's a little bit harder to do, but if these get bound up enough, the chains can be broke on these. And another thing I've noticed in the difference between the chained and the hinged, you're probably noticing that right off the get-go. See that? And these are right next to each other. When I put these on me, I always, well, that time I didn't because I was prepared for it, but it usually pinches my wrist. These would be really good for, I mean, these barely fit me. Um, you see how tight that is on there. Um, these would be really good for, say, if you had to restrain a female. Females generally have smaller wrists. Juveniles, these would probably be more. This would be my go-to for if I had to restrain a female or a juvenile. Um, these are not considered the big guy cuffs. Somebody with, you know, larger wrist, um, these are not gonna are not gonna go on well. You see, even with these, you know, once they're tightened down, there's not a whole lot of play in there. Um, and of course, to unlock it, we just go to the left, and we're unlocked. And I highly recommend getting one of these. It is so, and even this one, is a little bit short. I really prefer one, the average length of a pen. But this is far better than the little, fumbling around for this. But the good thing is you can hide one of these in your boot or somewhere in your belt, even in your hat somewhere. Real easy to hide. These not so much, not so easy to hide, but for security and law enforcement, you definitely want to get one of these. Um, Overall, though, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had to restrain anybody. Um, that's that's not what we do. The main purpose of security is to be a deterrent. Um, it is nice to have them just in case. And in the security work that I do, I work very closely side by side with a uniformed police officer, um, for at least 2 of my shifts. One of my other postings is actually corporate security, which I love that one because nothing ever happens there. Basically, I sit at a station, monitor the cameras, do my hourly rounds, and it's all done electronically. I have very little paperwork to do because we have security posts where I go to. I scan those posts saying that I have been there. It notifies the computer that security has checked that area. So it's real convenient and easy. Um, but yeah, I think I I think I paid maybe about $30 a pair for these Vipertek. Um, haven't had an opportunity to actually uh, use them in the sense that they are. I've done some practice with them, not so much against uh, a resisting individual, but with an individual who's compliant. And that's where you always want to start. Eventually we'll work into some resistance, but at the same time you got to be careful with stuff like this because you don't want to hurt the person you're working with, and it'd be real easy to crank these down too hard, or when you're trying to apply the other one and you've got them in that arm bar, apply too much pressure, dislocate the shoulder, or possibly break I believe it's the fibula or tibula. I'm not sure. I'm not a medical expert. Basically, the forearm bone. Um, it's very possible to break that, or even dislocate the elbow. Can cause wrist damage to your practice opponent, and we want to avoid that at all costs. Anyways, both hinged and chained have different applications. Yeah, this is going to be more mobile. However, this is going to be, if I had somebody who is actively resisting, I would prefer to use hinged because you can get that leverage on them a little bit easier. Hinged, you can get some leverage, but there's still a lot of mobility and flex in there, and the chance that they could wrap these chains around something and possibly break them. Um, everybody that I've talked to that is in law enforcement has said if they're compliant, they prefer to use chains to give them a little bit of mobility and comfort, because these are far more comfortable than the hinged. But if you're trying to restrain somebody who is resisting, uh, most law enforcement officers that I've talked to said that they prefer hinged. Anyways, that's today's Jacketed Hollow Points. Please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And let's give a big thumbs up to my son John and his partner Zach serving the Memphis Police Department. You guys keep up the good work.